All right, everybody, welcome back to the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith. Carter and Richie are out today. I am coming to you live. If you can do me a favor while we're getting this thing started, hit that like and subscribe button and help us grow this channel. Um, just a few housekeeping items. Just been working on some of the stuff, the tech. We made the switch over. Um, didn't think we were going to be able to get it done. That's why we were out yesterday. Um, just, yeah, doing that whole thing. But if you can hit the like and subscribe button, help us grow this thing. Also, the Cowboys take on the Eagles tonight. That is also something going on. Uh, I know the NFL is back, but just what we're doing tonight. Um, just figured we would get a show in, retweet and everything, and we are going to have the uh, the watch parties coming to you this weekend. Trying to get the call-in show set up. That's been a bigger endeavor than what I have anticipated. So just trying to get that all ironed out. And if you can hear me, let me know. But we will hop into the first topic. It's been a very hot button topic, I will say, um, going forward. Um, but to start it off, Ohio State, Texas, the highest rated game, uh, peaked at 18 million viewers from 3 to 315. Um, I mean, that's unbelievable considering what they got. Um, a real old school game. I know we've talked about it, and Texas has had the woes, and that's just something. Sorry about that. Just trying to get some things going. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. But yeah, the 16 million views on average. I mean, that's just unbelievable. College football is doing a heck of a job on getting everything for their standpoint, just pretty much everything up to snuff, and that's kind of where it's at. Let me move this mic up a bit. There we go. But yeah, that's just something that we are striving for. Um, College football seems like it's growing, but yeah, the hold on, let me new computer. Here is the other topic. Uh, if they do this, I think this is a good idea. A one-time transfer window, I believe it would open on January 2nd, and it's only a 10-day window, is what the talks are about. I think this is their way to try to limit player movement. Um, just for the simple fact of that it's pretty much bowl season's over except for the playoffs. Um, I would say in the NIL space, it makes it harder for people to move around, and it's just something that to be said though. Um, I think that is a I think that's a good thing to move the transfer window around. Um, I I think that I think that whenever you're using the transfer window the way that some of the kids are leveraging it, I think that that is not a good thing for the sport going forward. I think that they really should just put limits on it. If it was really up to me, I think I would move it to um because they have this big obsession with spring football, and I get it, it's necessary, but I don't know why they wouldn't move it to June and give them the spring off and let them do weights and all that stuff like that. But I think they need to move the season up 3 weeks at least. If they would move it up and end it on make the Rose Bowl the national championship every year, January 1st, it's over, it's done, it's before the NFL playoffs. Because if Goodell adds a if Goodell adds a how do I want to say this? If he adds another week to the season, um, it's going to be really, really tough to fit everything in my opinion. I don't know how they're going to be able to do that, um, because it's going to go past President's Day. The Super Bowl, or not President's Day, but the Super Bowl would be the third week of February, and you're almost into March. I think the NFL is trying to cut time down going to the draft. They're trying to cut time down in a lot of ways, to be honest, because they dominate the news cycle. For all intents and purposes, they dominate the entire news cycle. Um, but yeah, I would like to see. I would like to see the here. I got it here. Back on the transfer portal thing. The NCAA is pushing to eliminate the spring transfer window. The portal period would be a single window that would open January 2nd. If it's approved, it would completely I don't think it would completely disrupt, but realistically, I think the biggest kid that moved in the spring window was Nico. So, I mean, that is what it is, but kind of where we're at, but I think people will have to get over it. But in other news, rolling into the current longest winning streaks in college football, here they are: Ohio State with 4, Florida with 4, Illinois, Marshall with 7. But Marshall lost, and I believe Ohio lost. So I think Memphis and Ohio State are leading the way on that one. But uh, I know there's a hot button topic that wants to rear its head. The Alabama stuff. This is comments from AJ McCarron. He doesn't look any bigger. He doesn't look any stronger. He doesn't look any faster. He needs to step up. He's not Jeremiah Smith, brother. Um, the Alabama stuff is just. I'm not shocked that there's this much fan outrage. I thought it would be last year. Um, but I also think that DeBoer's got to completely build the program down and build it back up again. Um, I just don't know how. I just don't know how they think that it's going to mellow out. I mean, they lost 40 scholarship players into the transfer portal. Um, eh, he's got to completely take the program down before it can go back up again. When it comes to somebody like Saban, when Saban got there, his first year he went 7-6, and you kind of knew that they were going to win big. Um, at Alabama by hiring him. I mean, he was a subpar NFL coach, but college football to the NFL is totally different. I just feel like when you come down to the bare bones of it. I mean, when Saban was at peak powers of dominating college football, he was almost, because everybody wanted to be there, everybody wanted to go there. Um, it's not one of those things that is really easily done, but I just really think that you couldn't really transfer without sitting out. That was the big thing. There was no transfer portal pretty much when he had it. That's what it was. Um, it it's tough. And then, but speaking of Alabama, we'll transition into this. Diego Pavia's brothers got arrested at the game, which is very bizarre. I'm sure that he's not real thrilled about that. Some negative publicity going his way, but I mean, the Pavia story's been really good. Um, I don't see how you can't not root for the kid, but you know, this is the second week in a row, family issues in the stands. You had Avery Johnson's dad and brother getting in a fight. Um, not shortly after the not shortly after the game in Ireland. So it's kind of par for the course. And then also some of the Bill Belichick stuff coming out of Chapel Hill is just absolutely bizarre as well. I look at that and I think that how does the guy that is king number one, no distraction, coming up with all these distractions? I think that for everything being said, it's just very bizarre, um, that that it's turned out this way and that it's probably going to end this way. And also on the Alabama front, um, here's what the folks are saying at the sports books about Bill Belichick. Sorry about that. Just some stuff going on, but they're saying Bill Belichick is, or not Bill Belichick, but Tommy Reese is leading the way as the odds to be the next head coach at Alabama. Of course, Glenn Schumann's there, Kenny Dillingham, Jamarcus Shepard's very interesting. Um, I think that everybody just needs to pump the brakes. John Gruden with the Barstool emblem, um, Jimbo Fisher with the XM emblem. Looking down that list, I think Tommy Reese, no. I just can't believe they put odds out on this. It was just kind of like the people banging the drum last year for Billy Napier being fired. I I was kind of on that train for a little bit because I didn't think it was going to go well, but it, at the end of the day, I think that um, it's to the point to where it's not conducive for behavior as the fan base, because the standard is so high at Alabama. You have to look at it and say what it is. Is it going to be possible for them to pick up the pieces and get this going in the right direction? They should, but I think it's just going to take time with the amount of guys that left the year before. He's playing guys that I think that aren't ready. I mean, Ryan Williams technically now is a freshman in college. He reclassified and left early. I just think that he's in a no-win situation there at Alabama for the most part. And then the funds came up. this was very shocking. The recruiting budgets on what some of these universities are spending on recruiting. A&M, of course, but I can't believe almost by $1 million Alabama outspent A&M. Georgia Tech's up is, a top 20. USF is a shocking one. Rutgers is shocking, but they have money to burn though, being in the Big Ten. The only non two SEC Big Ten schools are Clemson and South Florida on this list. But South Florida, I would think that their recruiting bed is Florida, so I wouldn't think they would be having to spend too many resources on that. But that's just kind of what it is, though. Rutgers, they're all the way out there in New Jersey, and I was kind of shocked that Oregon didn't spend more. LSU doesn't really have to leave where they're at. Tennessee, though, outspending everybody in recruiting. Will it translate into the top class? I believe USC's not even on this list, but USC having the number one recruiting class. So there's that. And another one that you don't see on this list is Ohio State. So there is something to be said there with Ohio State and Ryan Day always having a number one recruiting class almost damn near every year. There's a lot of those things out there, but I think for the most part, everything is pretty much tip top shape. But I mean, really, that's kind of what Mac Brown said to about Bill Belichick being at North Carolina. Well, they invested $20 million. They really are putting probably 40 million into football with the staff, Belichick, recruiting, and committing that many resources to it should yield results. I mean, I get it, it's year one, but I just don't know where the buck is going to stop realistically. So there is that. Also, if you're watching on Twitter, or formerly known as Twitter, that is now X. If you come on over, hit that like and subscribe button. We'll probably be live today and Saturday. The viewing schedule for Saturday is going to be probably started off at noon with Iowa State, and then it's going to be a combo Ole Miss, Kentucky, with a little Florida in there, and then the main topic is going to be, or the mainstream is going to be Oklahoma and Michigan. Hopefully, we can get the call-in show up and rolling by then. That's all I'm hoping for. So we'll see how that pans out. But also in other news, the transfer portal rankings impact players came out on 3 did. Castellanos being at number 1 is not no shock to me. I was thinking Carson Beck would have been 2. Joey Aguilar had a good day. Jackson Arnold had a good day. Dan Pierre was awesome. Retzloff looked good. And John Mateer, it's hard to gauge what Mateer did because they really didn't play anybody. Same thing with Bo Perbula. I wasn't shocked that you seen Retzloff march all over Northwestern. It's Northwestern we're talking about. But Joey Aguilar I would say would be the number 1 impressive player that I saw. So, yep, there is that. And then we get to talking about resources here. Here is Mike Gundy. This was his comment about Oregon. I think Oregon spends close to 40 million last year alone. That was just 1 year. And then Dan Landing comes back with we spend to win, some people save. But, because Dan also brought up about, because Gundy wanted to talk about resources, he's trying to build an excuse in my opinion already. That's what Gundy's trying to do. I wouldn't I would not be shocked after all of this going on if Oregon goes out there and stomps them. If Oregon puts the boots to Oklahoma State, Gundy's going to say, "Well, they spent more." I think that's why Gundy made those comments. But I think that's the new day and age of college football. I don't think that we're here, crying over spilled milk. I just feel like that you're at a point in this whole thing to where if you don't spend resources, you're not going to win. I mean, if you point to a program that is spending little to no resources to win, I'd like to see it, because you could say, well, Ohio State doesn't overly spend. Well, but at the end of the day, their NIL budget is what it is. But I mean, they're trying to keep that under lock and key, because they don't really want to know how they don't really want to know they don't really want people to know how much they're really spending. A lot of these universities are like that. They don't want people to really know what they're spending. Can you blame them? I don't know. I think a lot of it is embarrassment, to be honest. I think that at a certain degree of it, you have to look in the mirror when it comes to certain things. Um, and I don't even know where college game day is this week, but I think that's something to be said. Just looking at some of the stuff, a lot of it is just DeBoer, uh, DeBoer centric. Alabama is the I have. Mm-mm-mm. Hold on 1 second. Oh, the quarterback at Oklahoma State. I think Oklahoma State, when it comes to it, it's going to be very interesting, to say the least. I don't watch a lot of Oklahoma State, to be honest. I don't even know who they played last week, because they were not on the topic du jour. I think that if they go up there and put up a fight against Oregon, that says a lot. But I think the reason why Gundy brought up the resources thing is just in case they get the boots put to them, which I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. I'll have to check and see what that line is. That's what I'm looking for. See what the FD's got them at. Just looking at lines, really. Couple games Friday night. James Madison, Louisville. I don't think that'll be very interesting. That should be over midway through the third quarter. Although Duke, Illinois, I find that fascinating. Two defensive guys in Manny Diaz and Brett Bielema. See, what's really strange here when it comes to this betting line, what it tells me is that the over-under's at 55.5, and you get to Oregon is a 27.5 point favorite. To me, that tells me that they don't think Oklahoma State can score. That's what that tells me. But I think Gundy put in a he built in he built in an excuse, in my opinion, when it comes to that. And then the other thing that I found fascinating in this is on the Belichick side of things. I think Bill Belichick. Just reading some stuff here. Bill Belichick banning Patriot scouts from practice or not letting them come to practice. That's kind of messed up. I think that hurts your program, really. Regardless of whatever you think about the NFL, I think it hurts your program. Um, it's just something to be said there. Um, we'll roll down the top 25 matchups this week. Penn State taking on Florida International, San Jose at Texas, um, Illinois Duke, Florida State versus East Texas A&M. They are really setting it on fire. I think we're going to start off with Iowa State, Iowa at the beginning. I want to see what Rocco Beck can do against Iowa. Uh, Baylor SMU, I find that very fascinating. I think Baylor has got a rebound in some facet of it. Because I think Dave Aranda, even though it's very cultish down there, Baylor makes fun of Texas A&M all the time, but I think they're just as bad. Indiana taking on Kennesaw State. The 1-0 Kent State Golden Flashes are going down to Lubbock. Hopefully they don't get hit with any tortillas. A&M taking on Utah State. Ohio State taking on Grambling. I think that's a resource issue there. Same thing with Austin P, Georgia, Oklahoma State, Oregon, which we talked about. Troy travels to Clemson. Tennessee, or not Tennessee, but Ole Miss on the road at Kentucky. I think Lane Kiffin has had this one circled for a while, just in my opinion. I think Kiffin definitely wants to, I wouldn't say revenge, but I think he wants to get a little get back on that one. I think that because the Kentucky game last year kept them out of the playoffs. And then you have East Tennessee State taking on Tennessee. South Florida, Florida is going to be very interesting. I think that for the most part, South Florida, Florida, that has the potential to be the best game in that window, I think. And then Miami takes on Bethune-Cookman, snoozer. You got South Carolina taking on South Carolina State. Think that's a big resource issue there as well. Louisiana Tech is going down to Baton Rouge. The trip from Baton Rouge to Ruston. Good luck, fellas. I think that for some reason this game is getting billed really high. Mississippi State, Arizona State, they're coming down to Starkville, and it's going to be a hot one. And I mean, Arizona's hot, but we'll have to see about that. I think it's a big proving test for Jeff Lebby and the Dogs. They had a bunch of touchdowns called back. I watched a little bit of that. I think that when it comes down to it, Arizona State and Mississippi State, I think both them programs have a lot to prove. I think it's more of a proving ground for Mississippi State than it is Arizona State. I mean, Arizona State was in the playoffs a year ago, but Lebby has been trying to get it going. That's just something there. I think that out of all the matchups that are set to kick off this weekend, I think that's a very fascinating one. And the Cowboys Eagles about to kick off here soon. And then the marquee game of the weekend is Oklahoma, Michigan. I think that's something that college football is trying to create, these big blue blood programs. you can say Oklahoma's been down. Michigan didn't have that great of a year, but a lot of people are picking both these schools to try to push really, really hard for the college football playoff. And I feel like we're in for a monster of a game with that. I think game day is at Norman, and then the ULM taking on Alabama. The only thing I have to say about that is, and Utah is taking on Cal Poly at Rice Eccles. That ought to be a whale of a game. The biggest thing that I would have to take away from the weekend is if you are Alabama, you cannot struggle against ULM at all. You have to go out there and pretty much dominate for all intents and purposes. Um, I just don't think that it will be conducive for behavior. I think that one of the other things that uh, one of the other things that we're looking at here is just they cannot afford to struggle or else they will want to burn that thing down. But here are some of the notable week 2 matchups. Michigan, Oklahoma on ABC. Of course, Big Noon is going to be at Iowa State, and pretty much, I guess Vanderbilt takes on Virginia Tech. Neither one of them are ranked, but I think those are some of the marquee matchups uh, for this weekend coming up. The national championship odds to win the Natty this year: Ohio State's at plus 600, Penn State plus 600, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Clemson, Alabama still at 1400, Oregon 1400, Notre Dame, Miami, which I don't understand how Notre Dame's um, play or their odds to win the national championship are better than Miami's when Miami beat them. Florida at plus 3,000, Michigan plus 3,000, Ole Miss plus 3,500. I think that number will dramatically change if they go out and beat the hell out of Kentucky. I think that'll be something to be said there. Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Auburn with the worst, not the worst, but they're plus 5,000. I still think the odds makers are not giving a whole bunch of respect to Hugh Freeze and the Auburn Tigers there, so I'm not shocked by that. It's just something that happens typically. It is what it is. But here's the last graphic that I have for everybody. 5 out of the 10 highest paid coaches in college football this week lost. Dabo at third, 11.5. DeBoer 10.8 at 5. Sark 10.8. Dion 10.8, and Bill Belichick at 10. Um, those are the highest, or 5 out of the 10 highest paid coaches lost this weekend. It was kind of inevitable between Day and or Sark, because they played each other. So I find that very fascinating. I think that going into it, I'm interested to see what's going to happen. I find a lot of stuff. I find a lot of stuff with this very interesting. I think that when it comes down to it, I would like to see how Alabama responds. That's something that I would like to see how they respond to this. Um, just getting everything around and ready. Outside of that, I think that there's a lot to be said. We'll go over some odds here. Indiana 35-point favorite. Illinois' Duke is at 2.5. Some books have it at 3.5. I find that a fascinating line, but there's some of that to be said. Um, just looking. I would like to see what. Oh, Heisman odds. That was also on the docket for today. Where are we at? So updated Heisman odds: Nussmeier plus 800. Carson Beck is in second, and I told everybody when I was watching when we did the watch party for Miami Notre Dame, I said you better grab Beck while you can, because if they keep winning, his odds are going to go through the roof. I still don't get how Arch Manning is still up there. Um, Dan Pierre has climbed in there. Jackson Arnold, Lagway, Jeremiah Smith, they're all about the same. But Lenore Sellers and Carson Beck have the same amount of odds to win it. They're plus 1,000. Gunnar Stockton 1,400, Arch Manning 1,400, uh, Dante Moore 1,700. It's gonna the Heisman odds are so ever changing. Um, so there's that. Be interested to see where win totals, if there's anybody that's had any major win totals. Alabama dropped a whole game after losing to Florida State. They opened the season at 9.5 as their over under win total, and they are down to 8.5 at the moment. So I think that's interesting. Florida stayed the same. Auburn went up a game. They're at 8.5. Arkansas stayed. Tennessee, where are you? Tennessee's still at the 8.5. Texas still at 9.5. A&M at 8.5. See, Vandy went up a whole game as well, because when I bet my future, the futures that I had taken, I took Alabama over, which I still think that they can get the over. I don't think their season's over just because they lost to Florida State. I got Florida over 7.5, Georgia over 9.5. I have Tennessee under 8.5. I have Syracuse over 5.5, and I have Houston over 5.5. And then I have A&M over 7.5. I got Vandy over 8.5. Although I think I might lose my LSU under, because that's at 8.5. And Clemson, I think Clemson can still run the ACC. LSU went up a whole game after winning against Clemson. Ole Miss stayed the same. Where did Ohio State go? Ohio State's still at 10.5. I find that interesting. I think Florida State went up a whole game as well. And Syracuse dropped, but I think it's just because they had a bad showing on national television. That's that whole thing. Colorado at 5.5. Houston went up a game at 6.5. I mean, I get it though. Odds are going to be ever changing, but when it comes to conference championship leaders, it's pretty much the same. But we are going to cut. I will run through these, and then we will cut the show short so we can get everybody to Dallas and Philadelphia. Clemson plus 150 to win the ACC. Utah plus 450 to win the Big 12. SEC, Georgia's now the favorite. Don't know why LSU isn't. Ohio State is almost going to be negative money soon. Tulane ahead in the American. Toledo's the MAC. Boise State is minus money to win the Mountain West. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Boise does not win the Mountain West. That is something that I do not think is going to happen. But uh, appreciate everybody who jumped on tonight. Short show. It's just one of those things. We're still working out some equipment stuff that I have issues with. We're trying to get that solved and fixed. But a little bit of a shorter show tonight. But if you can hit that like and subscribe button and help us grow the podcast, that'll be much appreciated. Going to have a show tomorrow. And then whenever the Steelers start, I would say probably next week, I'll bring Steel City back. And then we're still working on trying to do the live call-in show. I'll keep you guys updated on that. But with that being said, hit that like and subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up and turn on those bell notifications if you like this content. I will see you guys tomorrow.